then we're going to start capping how much NIL money a student athlete can get. That's what I see coming down the road.
On today's Throwdown Thursday edition of the Odd Coaches Podcast, Dr. Adams and Coach Francis discuss the potential NCAA rule implementation regarding NIL, debate the role of the athletic director in the changing college landscape, as well as give their thoughts on a new in-season college basketball tournament proposal, which some describe as bracket busters on steroids. Welcome to today's show. Dr. Keith Adams is the president of the CKA Save Project, a nonprofit organization designed to assist student athletes and the people who work with them through educational and professional development. He is a career academic and athletic leader with close to 30 years of experience on the high school and college levels. He has won numerous championships and epitomizes professionalism. Coach Mike Franchise Francis is one of the most successful football and basketball coaches in the state of Maryland. He too is a career academic and athletic leader with close to 30 years of experience on the high school and college level and is self-admittedly a little rough around the edges. Both men have mentored countless student athletes, teachers, and coaches using their unique methods and approaches to leadership. Both men also share a unique and special friendship that was cultivated often through their unique perspective of life and leadership. Dr. Adams through his extensive educational background and Coach Francis through his life experiences. Can these two men share a podcast without driving each other crazy? Welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast.
Greetings and salutations and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and with me today, I'm going to come off the top, I've got to write this one down, Coach, is my tag team partner. Let's go the women's today. You are my Sasha Banks to my Naomi. And I don't know why they put them together because Sasha should be main eventing. But anyway, the icon, the showstopper, the main event, and the reason why we are here, Coach Mike Francis and Coach, the reason why I picked that is Sasha did something really, really cool this week. At some middle school, they have like a wrestling club. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they look at matches and I'm going back to middle school. I might have to do this because it was fun. And the teacher who reached out to WWE and Sasha Banks, they played Sasha's theme music. And this is on the internet, so you can see it. She came into her theme music, and the 8th graders or the middle schoolers, they popped like it was Madison Square Garden. She did the whole bit, and she did all, and the kids are going nuts. And I love, that's what I love. I love when people do stuff like that.
So, I might do that next Friday.
You know, hey, yeah, but better watch the language. And no pictures, please. So anyway, on today's Throwdown Thursday, we've got some stuff to talk about, man. Segment 1, we're going to talk about the potential crackdown on NIL that may or may not be coming. Good luck with that. In segment 2, we're going to talk about the role of the athletic director because now we're starting to have athletic directors fired in part because of NIL. And in segment 3, there's an idea being proposed that is bracket busters on steroids. So fans, you've got to love the fact that we talk about all of the things that come up. And for those out there, we told you about expansion. We told you about conference expansion and you didn't listen to us. Yeah. You're starting to listen a little more. So segment 1, Coach, there is a report, there's a media report that college leaders are proposing retroactive NIL punishments, calling for the NCAA to enforce new rules or else. Let's set this stage. College leaders want the NCAA to start investigating recruiting violations, not just future problems, but some in the past as well. Colorado athletic director, Pac-12, is among the athletic directors who said NIL collectives are violating deals by lining up deals for players before they sign. That's the needle that they want to do. Here's the quote. Just because we have NIL does not eliminate the rules. Everybody's like, it's NIL. I'm totally in favor of NIL done right. It's really good. Athletes should be able to monetize, but a lot of what's happening out there is not NIL. So current rules don't allow boosters to get involved with recruiting, but an accusation of tampering came in last week with Pittsburgh wide receiver Jordan Addison. So the new guidelines would say boosters cannot communicate with student athletes or others affiliated with a student athlete to encourage them to enroll or attend an institution. In addition, the NCAA should 100% look into potential violations. What do you think about that, sir?
I think it's another way to control what's going on. What's going to happen next is they're going to come back and say all NIL deals have to go through our compliance office here at the university. And
I
then,
think that should happen, though.
no, I don't, because then let's say the deal comes in for a certain amount of money, but the kid doesn't see it. So the next decision is we're going to hold this money because they don't know how to manage the money.
No. Now we've crossed over there. No.
But that's what I see coming.
Mhm.
I see them still trying to get back in a way of controlling everything. This is their fight to try to control it. Then we're going to start capping how much NIL money a student athlete can get. That's what I see coming down the road. I say keep the school out of it. I say you can't prove that they signed it before. Well, some of these you can. It's just that maybe guys got to be smarter and shut the hell up.
All right. So conference commissioners, sir, are also asking for help. So Pac-12 commissioner, and he's a new guy, and I'm going to butcher his name, and I don't mean to, George Kilefkov, and SEC commissioner Greg Sankey met with congressional leaders this past week. And let's just say Congress is still taking shots at Mark Emmert. So these comments,
easy target now.
Yes,
He's an
indeed.
easy target. He's an easy target.
They want to know. Let me get this right. Mark Emmert didn't do a good job according to Congress, and the NCAA is soon to pass name, image, and likeness rules targeting boosters. So an expedited enforcement process to address name, image, and likeness is expected to pass as early as the taping of this show. So this show comes out on Thursday. You may have even heard about it before then. Ohio State Athletic Director Gene Smith says in a report, we know we're going to get lawsuits. He knows we're going to get lawsuits, but they're going to do it anyway. Again, all on paper. So John Ruiz Jr., I want to introduce our audience formally to John Ruiz Jr. No beef to John Ruiz Jr., by the way. He is a billionaire alum of the University of Miami, and he leads the U's collective and has become the face of the NIL collective issue. He is also an attorney. He is the son of Cuban immigrants who attended Miami in the 80s. Keep that in mind because they were popping. Per NCAA rules, boosters are not allowed to pay players directly or be a part of the university's recruiting process. The NCAA defines boosters as representatives of a school's athletic interests. That definition extends to supporters who have made contributions to a school's athletic department, arranged for employment of athletes, and or assisted in providing benefits to athletes or their families. Okay. Once a person is designated such a representative, they retain that identity forever, according to the NCAA. In the past, the NCAA has used a broad interpretation of that definition to penalize schools. The potential legal rub for the NCAA actions would be defining a booster in this highly litigious environment. Last thing before I get your thoughts, Mr. Louise said, I'm a seasoned lawyer and I do high-level litigation. What would happen in a court of law if someone were to challenge what we would do? We actually require work for pay. So a cat like John Ruiz, who's a billionaire and an attorney, the NCAA has not done well in the court of law. What are your thoughts about that, sir?
I think that this would have been like he came out. I remember the story. I watched the story on CBS this morning and was watching how he was stepping in and helping all kids. But not only that, he wasn't just doing it about name, image, and likeness. They have a class about how to do press conference. They have a class about financial literacy. Like, he's doing a great job. It's not just about money. Not only that, he has the athletes go out and work. They do presentations. They go do they go to events, they do all kind of things. So they are earning their money not for just sports. So I have no problem with what he's doing. He's helping them and he's out having them doing things. So it's teaching them all about business. It's teaching them about how to make sure that their time management skills are up to par. So when they do get a job, because most of them aren't going to play professionally, or even after your professional sports career is over, you still got to be able to have skills to transition into the real world and the work world.
All right. So what could happen next? This is all speculative. Ruiz's involvement in paying athletes for promoting his companies via social media and videos could be a test case for the NCAA if it chooses to take on NIL after months of inactions. NCAA rules and some state laws mandate that an athlete must perform some task or action other than playing football in exchange for their compensation. The guidance from the NCAA, from West Virginia's athletic director, is you're in violation of the rules, uh, and the rules haven't changed. Collectives are third party entities that develop financial opportunities for college athletes. They have emerged as NIL brokers of various levels, have emerged. Since NIL debuted July 1st, not even a year, Mike, the 9 months that have followed have lived up to the predictions that it's becoming the wild, wild west. So let me tell you what coaches are saying, fans. One high profile coach said he was contacted by an agent, and the agent said 200,000 in 48 hours, or my guy's in the transfer portal. Another coach that said the cost of attendance on steroids is pretty much what NIL is. What are you thinking about what the coaches are saying, sir?
I feel bad that happened. I mean, that ain't the first time it happened. It's just the coaches aren't the ones in charge of it. Like, that's what it looked like to me. I don't know about 200,000 in 48 hours. That's rough. That's rough. That is rough. That's capitalism at its best right there. Dude's trying to take advantage of the moment. Um, Coaches and athletic directors or universities are losing control, which had they just paid people
I
when
don't
they
feel bad
started
for him.
asking. Exactly. I don't. They say it ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. Everybody want to hunt rabbits, but what happened when you go in the woods with a gun and the rabbit got one too?
So this is just the beginning, fans. There is a hesitation from the NCAA that enforcing the rules could quickly lead to antitrust lawsuits. And again, the NCAA has not had a good record in court. Numerous programs have organized booster run collectives, um, which seemingly disallowed the pay for play. And Mitt Winter, who is a good follow on Twitter, by the way, um, he told Sports Illustrated, I don't think all collectives will decide, okay, we're going to listen to the NCAA right now, because nobody does that. Um, so, with that, I do want to end this segment with a little history of the United States. When the country was first founded, we had the Articles of Confederation, which simply put state first, country second. It lasted about 9 years. And the major problem with the Articles of Confederation was that there was no executive branch to enforce anything. So it was kind of each state did their own thing, which is where we are right now with NIL. So then we came up with the Constitution, which pretty much, again, in a nutshell, put country first and state second. We have three equal branches of government, and we won't go there. But hey, folks out there who are protesting, remember there's three equal branches of government and learn how the system works. But I'll leave it at that. The legislative branch makes laws, the judicial branch interprets law, and the executive branch enforces law. So with that being said, Mike, the recommendation that I made to Dr. Rubin, it's the same recommendation I'm going to make to you. I want every student athlete to get everything that they want, but by creating a centralized system where it's reported above board, that's the ticket. And they do have a rule in place that I think they could simply enforce. Now, again, it's going to be muddy to enforce it, but the collectives should not be able to reach out on behalf of the universities. But once I would recruit it this way, if I wanted Mike Francis to come, I'm going to say we have a collective that could, because that's what Dean Smith used to do. Dean Smith used to say, if you come to North Carolina and you keep your nose clean and you do everything we need you to do for the rest of your life, you're good. And man, when Dean died and bought everybody a steak dinner, that's kind of how I'm looking at it. But hey, as my wife and you tell me all the time, I live in fantasy land. Any final thoughts before we move on to the next segment, sir?
I don't think it should have to be above board because they've gotten so much money for so long. Do we know how much money they really made?
No,
Can you
not at all.
can you calculate the amount of money generated off the backs of student athletes before?
Yes, and I would
this?
move forward. I would not go backwards. Just no.
How
need to-
many billions and trillions possibly have they been able to get from college athletics? Like, so now that other people, the people who actually doing the work, are sharing in on it, everybody's concerned. Everybody want to make rules. Everybody want to stand up. If you didn't stand up for the student athlete, i.e. Jay Billis, like he has, I don't want to hear shit you got to say.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear nothing you had to say. There's nothing you can contribute to this because you're trying to save what you had. You're a gatekeeper. I don't do gatekeepers.
No, not at all. And again, this won't be the last time we talk about it. We're going to dive in deep throughout the summer, as I have done 6 years of research on student athlete motivation and intrinsic and extrinsic and the money and what have you. But yeah, some rules are going to try to come about, and good luck with that. And if you do want our advice, we don't charge that much, but we do charge. And we'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
Why should student athletes use the CKA SAVE Project academic and athletic consulting services? Over the past 15 to 20 years, colleges, universities, professional sports teams, business organizations, and others have increased their use of consulting services to improve their decision-making processes and results. Over the same time, the athletic and academic landscape has changed for high school and college student athletes as the NCAA has raised initial academic eligibility requirements for student athletes while decreasing the number of transfer restrictions. Former college student athletes have noted that they were academic and athletically unprepared for the rigors of college. Let the CKA SAVE Project's close to 30 years of academic and athletic experience help guide student athletes to increase success as we work to help student athletes achieve the goal of obtaining a college degree. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast. And man, we got to get this behind the scenes thing we're talking about. But in segment 2, I wanted to share this story with my partner and share the story with the audience so we can start to have this conversation too, because I think this is going to be an annual conversation. Wichita State Shockers fired athletic director Darren Boatwright amid criticism that the school can't compete in the NIL marketplace. So, Wichita State athletic director Darren Boatwright was fired last week. University president said in a news release that Boatwright had achievements and successes during his tenure, but there were, and I quote, significant ongoing concerns that became acute in recent weeks, ones that I did not believe could be addressed. The president did not elaborate. So critics target him in recent weeks because Wichita State had not raised funds after the Supreme Court lifted a ban on college athletes being compensated for their name, image, and likeness. The Wichita Eagle reported that it was Boatwright's responsibility to ensure the school's donors were aware of the new rules and be prepared with incentives to retain current players and attract new ones. The men's basketball program, Mike, had 8 scholarship players into the transfer portal this spring. And here's where I really wanted to dig in. This is from Boatwright itself. Where we aired was focusing on educating our athletes about NIL and not just collecting cash and paying kids to come to Wichita State. We were told all along that this was not pay for play, but now it appears the NCAA has no problems with that, so why not? Boatwright, who was athletic director for 6 years, Mike, was given a 2-year contract extension that ran through June of 2024 and gave him a 37.5% raise to $275,000 a year. But fans were critical because that extension was never announced publicly and came during the coronavirus. Mike, what is the role of the athletic director during these changing times in college athletics? Floor is yours, my friend.
You can't get out in front of it. I think it's unfair to be judged by it, especially with change coming. But also, as an athletic director, your job is to kind of try to see change and trying to plan. Like most athletic directors have their next head coach in mind, their next, honestly, they do. They have a list, even though they don't share it. They know who it is. So they should also know they have a list. If you're an NCAA athletic director, you know the donors, you know the business people, you know everyone who is a partner in what you're doing. So your community partners, whether it be local or national, whatever, your business partners that's willing to donate, your advertisers and all of that, you have a list of that. You should have been able to reach out to them as if they're building that network. If you're building a network, I mean, some athletes have summer jobs, so you have that list anyway, because you have to have that information as an athletic director. But maybe he felt like that was not going to bother, or their school wasn't have to go through that, or the alumni association is not that strong, so maybe he just ignored it. I could understand that being at Wichita.
Well, as a former athletic director, I agree with you that you've got to see the landscape. And one of the things that I saw in my brief time as an athletic director, there are different kinds of athletic directors. And the job's a different job now. And I kind of thought when I was an athletic director that I kind of saw where the job was going. And there's academic things you just have to know and pay attention to. There's athletic things you have to pay attention to in terms of the business of athletics. There's athletic things in terms of the sports itself. And if I'm advising any athletic director right now, you've got to be a CEO, and your staff, your assistant athletic director, you're this, you're that, and the other, they have to be entrusted and emboldened to do a lot of things that previously the athletic director did. And you got to fund that because, hey, if I'm an AD, I want a collective. I'm not going to lie. I want a collective, and I want to know, what they can do. So our coaches, as we mentioned in the last segment, I love what Dean Smith did. And I do want student athletes to, benefit from their name, image, and likeness. But you also have to remember you have to win games. You have to win games. You have to graduate folks. So if you're bringing in folks, anybody, any school, any team, and their focus is not on making sure both happen, Mike reads the newspaper just as much as anybody else in terms of, hey, I want to go against that wide receiver because that wide receiver is getting $300,000. And if I can beat him, maybe I get $300,000 too. So it's a tough job to be an AD, and there's a lot that comes with it. But as the late great John Thompson said, don't take the money if you don't want to do the job. Don't tell me how hard the job is after you said I'll do the job. Mike, any final thoughts on that before we move on to our last segment, sir?
No, sir. No, sir.
All right. Well, we'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
Dr. Keith Adams, president of the CKA Save Project's book, Finding the Balance, My Personal Journey to Academic and Athletic Success, is now available for purchase. The book serves as both a memoir of Dr. Adams' 30-year academic and athletic career, as well as an instructional guide to assist student athletes, parents, coaches, teachers, and administrators navigate through the challenges of finding a better balance between academic and athletic success. The book includes numerous personal stories and anecdotes from Dr. Adams, along with numerous former players and colleagues, including former George Mason standout Folarin Campbell. You can order your copy at www.ckasaveproject.org. From the main page, simply click CKA Save Project Services and order the Find the Balance book. For more information, contact Dr. Keith Adams by email at cka@ckasaveproject.org.
Welcome back to the Coaches Podcast. In segment 3, we've got to share with our audience an idea that has been called by some media reports bracket busters on steroids. So, there's an innovative non-conference scheduling initiative that is developing behind the scenes in college basketball that, if it's adopted, would adjust the landscape of the sport in February. So 22 of the Division I's 32 conferences have been receptive to an ambitious scheduling concept that would introduce back-to-back non-league games played just a few weeks prior to Selection Sunday. So the WAC commissioner, Brian Thornton, and the WAC associate commissioner, Drew Spiral, they told CBS Sports, again, a fun website, the selling point of these out-of-conference matchups will be to pit projected NCAA tournament candidates, in addition to bona fide bubble teams, against each other. What's more is that these games would be between schools fighting to improve their NCAA tournament resume. So here's how it would work. For 1 week in February, a slew of leagues would pause their conference schedule and instead have all their members play 2 non-conference opponents. The model would have every team involved play 1 home game and 1 away game, with the majority of the games happening 3 days apart, mainly Wednesday and Saturday, with the window commencing after Valentine's Day. These matchups would be decided by an algorithm, Mike, getting the computers involved, that will ensure the best teams play the best teams. And now, if you get these different tournaments, different conferences in, you got your tier 1, your tier 2, your tier 3, and your tier 4 games, man.
Can't stay away from the tiers.
Hey, that's how they pick. So, do you think this idea would help, man?
Make money, yeah.
What about the tournament selections? And here's where I'm thinking about it specifically. The MEAC and the SWAC can stop being in 16 games and they can go out and beat somebody. And 2, we can stop having these teams from major conferences that are 500 and getting in because they're 500 in the conference and they lose in the first round. Okay? We can get them bums out of there. Talk to me, man. What do you think? Because you know half the teams ain't got no business in there.
True. When they in their own name, we know that. Some blue bloods are in there every year, but is the MEAC going to get a fair shake in this? Who are they going to play?
The algorithm would say who they played. Like, here's some games.
The supposed algorithm has them playing the number 1, number 2 seed every year. What is that?
Yeah, so by having a home and away game in February, it's going to strengthen their, wait for it, net ranking.
So Wichita going to travel to Howard?
I don't know how they would do it, but this year
I'm just saying, think about that.
They would have had Gonzaga in Houston, Colorado State play Davidson, Memphis play St. Mary's, or something like that. They would have had.
Why would Memphis? Like no, man, that's crazy. Because they're gonna dominate the smaller schools at that point in time, if you ask me. And to me, it's just 2 more. So are you reducing the amount of games the kids play? Because that means more.
No, it's the same amount of games, but instead of them raggedy
conferencing,
November games where Syracuse doesn't leave. State.
Yeah. St. Leo.
It takes the St. Leo out the
St. Rose. All that.
So they just saved 2 games for February. So they're still playing the same.
Playing NYU stuff like that, but I don't think I don't like it. I don't like it for the simple fact that this is. I still see teams getting. I still see some teams getting looked over when it comes to this, and I understand, but if everyone gets involved, that's cool. But then who decides what's the algorithm created on?
Now that I don't know, but they would try to.
You can still rig that though.
Yeah, and you wouldn't know who you were playing until like a week before.
Right. And then you got the thing of travel. So we didn't really put the best 2 teams up because we don't want to have to pay for travel from this school to this school. Let's put them up against this school, or this school right here would be a sellout. So let's, this is like preseason to me. This, like we talked last show, NFL preseason, where it's the money grab.
Yeah.
This now makes Davison play North Carolina State.
Should be a good one though. So again, this has not been approved. This is an idea. I like anything that'll shake up the tournament in terms of getting the best teams in. And I do hate when a 7-9 SEC team gets, what was it? This past year, there was one conference that had like 9 teams in it, and all of Bama was losing. Like, why are you in the tournament?
That's crazy.
So appreciate you letting me, bring that idea up. And the last thing for me on that was, can we do the same thing for the women's game? Because it took the women a long time to get to 68 teams in the tournament. And now we'd have this type of thing, and the women's game, doesn't have anything. So like that. So I do miss bracket busters. I always thought that was a cool concept. But hey, that's just me. But any final thoughts before we wrap up, sirs? Great week of episodes. I'm excited for our fans to hear.
Good.
All right. So on behalf of my tag team partner, Coach Mike Francis, I am Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Coaches podcast. And we will see you on the sidelines with big bucket hats this summer, we hope. Till next time, take care.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday through Friday on most weeks. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches podcast on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Podbean, Spotify, and YouTube. Follow the Odd Coaches podcast on Twitter and Instagram at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Adams on Twitter and Instagram at CKA Save Project. In addition, follow Coach Mike Francis on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Franchise, spelled Coach Franchize. For more information about the CKA Save Project, please visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.